Hello, today my guest is Kahshanna. She is the founder of Kissing Lions. Thank you for joining me today. Please introduce yourself and the company.
Well, hello, Jared. My name is Kahshanna Evans. I am the founder of Kissing Lions Public Relations, and I am really, really glad to be here today. We're going to tackle some exciting topics.
Uh, Happy to have you. I'm glad you jumped on and we got our technical issues resolved, so that's good.
Yes,
What can you tell me a bit about your background?
absolutely. So I have a background. I call myself a multi-hyphenate. That's the easiest way to say it. But I do have a background in fashion, film, television, and the entertainment industry, which gave way to a little burnout where I kind of found myself immersed in various modalities of wellness. So I studied um, just different forms of whole person well-being and wellness, personal development spanning about 10 years and eventually, which sounds unrelated, but it's not, launched Kissing Lions Public Relations, which is independent consultancy focused on branding, marketing communications, public relations, and also, most recently, something I've phrased community building through communications framework.
What that sounds interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, you're like, she's just throwing it all out there. Like, if we're gonna cook dinner, we got to bring all the ingredients, right? Um, so community building through communication strategy, it just sort of came about because there seemed to be something missing in wellness. And once I kind of started, being in the public relations and communications world, I felt like some of that was a part of what was missing from wellness. And then the plot thickens as I sort of begin to understand and learn about toxic stress and eventually facilitate an accelerator certification program at a nonprofit called Paces Connection. So this sort of shifted my focus to trauma informed awareness. And I can't help but like be delighted anytime I get the chance at alchemy. So I kind of fused those things together. And it really kind of brings up community building through communications. It's meant to sort of amplify storytelling, but it really is meant to help communications. It's meant to help organization really focus on the communities that they're marketing to, and also in the wellness world, communities that they serve, right? Something that can get lost along the way. And the entrepreneurs that are your audience, as well as innovators in the wellness space, may have also observed something that's missing is how brands actually communicate with their communities in ways that becomes culturally focused so that we're actually building community. We're not just marketing. And there's
Okay.
nothing wrong with marketing, but I'll pause there.
Right. Okay. So I get it. Okay. So you're more focused on I guess more of a gen I don't know how else to phrase it other than more of a genuine approach, I guess, um to marketing and building an actual community instead of just saying, hey, buy whatever it is I'm offering.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I would say the main value also is that I'm bringing that trauma informed lens to communications and branding. So this could potentially help um, you know, well established organizations have CSR, corporate social responsibility, and have an avenue in that understands the role toxic stress plays in their own organizational policies, or as I previously mentioned, with people they market to, so that we can kind of start to shift to the we us and not
Okay.
to, them over there type of thing.
Okay, I get it. So yeah, so more of a team aspect.
Yes, team and knowing um there's also a piece of it that's destigmatizing toxic stress. So, just for the audience out there, there are many studies around toxic stress and how that leads to increased negative health outcomes, increased health risks, and can actually lead to early death up to 20 years before we are actually potentially meant to pass away. And the more leaders know about this and the more people in wellness know about this, the more we stand to normalize the real wellness, a wellness that's meant to be trauma informed and trauma responsive and not just productized so that it's kind of generic, but it's not really helping people connect the dots.
Okay. So, well, now you have me really curious of about toxic stress. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Let's talk about that. Let us talk about it. Jared, I'm sure after another 10, 15 minutes, you're going to be running for me. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Just a little humor for the audiences. Oftentimes we bring these topics up and people are a little nervous. They sound like big words. Terms and jargon can start to sound really sciency. Well, there's a set of studies that all began with something called the Kaiser CDC ACEs studies. The acronym is ACE, and that stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And the study, believe it or not, didn't focus on children. It focused on adults, but it went on to create a paradigm shift in psychology and in the wellness world to the extent that we're still expanding awareness about toxic stress. So, what is it? Toxic stress, you've heard of healthy stress. Maybe you're on the baseball team and you're like, oh man, I'm not really hitting any home runs. There's a little bit of healthy stress there. You're getting pushed to your limit. If you have the support, you can kind of bounce back and learn from it. It's actually healthy. In the middle area, let's think of the parent with two jobs. They've got a big responsibility there, and there's a lot of stress, and they're kind of barely managing, but they're just doing okay. Toxic stress is when we have adversities and atrocities, and there's no intervention with wellness. We don't get a break. We don't get a chance for our nervous system to regulate. And when our nervous system is unregulated or dysregulated over time, increasing the cortisol, decreasing positive hormones, it actually expedites the disease process. So, all that to say, toxic stress is actually behind things like lung cancer, things like diabetes. So it's powerful to learn about because it's not all doom and gloom. The more we know about it, the more together we can destigmatize wellness and start to decenter the taboo and start to kind of like really have some positive sentiment and some trauma informed awareness that can help us to build resilience. Because the more we know about adverse childhood experiences, the more we know about building resiliency.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I had in my mind, I was like, ooh, what's toxic stress? Because, well, I guess I kind of thought, well, all stress was toxic, but now that you've pointed out some differences, I definitely understand that. I definitely have a lot of toxic stress currently.
Oh, what's going on, Jared? Talk to me. We're old friends now.
Yeah, just I have not, yeah, this past 12 months or so, yeah, it does not have been a good. I've not been living in a great way, let's just say that. But as far as
Sorry to hear that.
overloading my life, but I can tell my cortisol is high, right? And interrupting my sleep, and so yeah, I have to find a way out of this gerbil wheel, but that I'm currently in, but we don't need to get hung up on all that.
Well, Jared, you did something just then that I think is really powerful for your audience, which is a little truth telling with the right people can really open up and expand a whole new level of interconnection. So, interestingly, there are actually studies that having meaningful discussions of a deeper nature with a person we trust actually helps to regulate our nervous system. And, for the audience listening, also, Jared just referenced sleep and rest, hydration, healthy food. There are also studies to the exact opposite of adversities and atrocities and how those affect our nervous system. There are positive studies around how we can kind of counter the things that Jared just mentioned. And what I like that you just shared, Jared, is that leaders have a special opportunity to just normalize. Hey, I'm human. I'm going through something. Um, I think a lot of us may have, seen our parents, our grandparents, they always had to be such superheroes and pretend everything was okay. And I would say that actually can be very stressful and add to, challenges that are already intersectional and difficult to navigate.
Right. Yes. No, I think that this has just been kind of I know that I haven't been in a great pattern, but I think it's been a big realization lately of just kind of what this the depth of it, right? Like what I've been doing and how I slowly stopped doing all these things that were good for me, right? And just filled them with work. And so I mean that's how I got in this pattern of just having too much on my plate in general, like no time, no me time, no breaks, and yeah. So anyway, it's recent for me, so that's something I have to figure out.
Well, that navigation is real for a lot of folks, especially here in the United States. There's a lot of financial changes. There's a lot of, changes with people being hired. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that follow your channel here that are new. They're new at what they do, and some are kind of renewed, right? They went to corporate and they're like, "Oh no, please, anything but that." And they find themselves back at being entrepreneurs. So, what I really can relate to is that I've actually pivoted. I'm happy to be an open book at the value of, the audience listening in here. I've gone from, being an indie, sort of self-employed when I was in creative industries, and also immersing myself in wellness. And I worked in house at a couple of pivotal times as I sort of built out my resume. Worked for tech, I worked for startup, I worked for nonprofit. And in between there, I kept my independent consultancy. So when I introduced myself, I called myself a multi hyphenate. And it's a really precious term. And I really feel there's a special thing happening with a lot of people returning to wellness. There's so many people that are just kind of getting that light bulb at the same time. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And it's a trend, with people needing to sort of navigate, I want to say Gen X and, what do they call those? It was sort of a cusp millennials may be in the positions now where they're not only taking care of their own children, siblings, and maybe, younger family members, they're also starting to take care of elders. And it would be impossible not to feel the burden of the type of stress that we really need relief from, that sort of robs us from our sleep. And I think that, here's ways we can kind of do that, right? Hydrating, stay curious about what's coming up in our heart, what's coming up in our mind, what patterns we're kind of seeing. And I want to say just take a leap in to get curious and explore and be that hero by destigmatizing what we go through. Because if you're going through it and you're willing to talk about it, you're helping a whole bunch of listeners who maybe don't even know where to start or who are already in the process and need to just keep that hope alive, keep that light bulb on, that North Star of sorts.
Right. Yeah. You think it would be no, yeah, and I appreciate that. You think it would be, I guess, easier, right? Like you think it would be just like, oh, I just need to do this. And I've spent probably, I don't know how many hours now thinking about, how I need to resolve this. And I guess it feels more complicated than it should. But
You know, I feel like one thing that really was valuable, and I'm not sure if anyone listening in can resonate with this. It's more about what am I feeling right now versus how can I fix it? Because I believe we've all been encouraged as like young people when we were growing up, straighten up and fly right. You got to zip it up sometimes. You just got to make it happen. Right. And that has a place. With those of us who are go getters, we're always innovating and, reaching for the stars. But sometimes I feel like we haven't been encouraged to kind of compare and contrast a breakdown with a breakthrough. And because we are a society that can often, not always, but often shy away from really important topics that support transformation, like grief, there's various forms of grief, feeling almost like, oh gosh, I should keep doing better. And now I don't want to tell anyone. So not only do we sometimes deal with this kind of feeling of grief, but we're disappointed and we feel kind of like vulnerable telling the wrong person. Would they judge us? Will they be a spouse and think, oh no, it's not happening. Let me go find somebody else. So,
right.
these are very real things. And I think one of the best opportunities is to choose spaces of collective care. This is a phrase introduced to me by my former boss. She was the chief visionary officer of Paces Connection, a nonprofit I worked at, and really innovative, a real bright thinker in terms of something called collective care. And I said, well, can you tell me a little about that? I'm not using that phrase. Collective care is a space of intentionality where you're allowed to circle up and talk about what's really on your mind and what's really on your heart with intentionality, right? Not just knocking it back and pretending we don't care, but with that willingness to kind of get into that embodiment. And I think it's just really, it's enhanced my life. And I'm guessing a lot of the folks who are following your channel in the wellness world.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And definitely, I think that, and I agree. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about things that, make them, I guess, feel maybe weak, right? Or less than. So I mean, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't necessarily bother me, but I know that it's hard for a lot of people to admit that they're struggling.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm happy to tell on myself again as a guest of this wonderful emerging show here. Absolutely, I still feel that right now, and I am immersed in bringing on this community building through communication strategy and making sure that's through a trauma informed lens. And I am doing some work with the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center Advisory Council, which is very special. But I still, have to kind of do that step by step process of checking in with myself. And it's what one, I used to be in the, acting world many, many moons ago. And one acting teacher, his name was Eric Morris. He used to have us do this exercise called personal inventory. And I still do personal inventory, which was, we sort of had to go up in the front of other performers, which I don't, I don't recommend for the introverts listening. But the idea there was to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And we'd have to repeat the question to ourselves, answer it, and then, or excuse me, we'd say the question out loud, answer it, and ask the question again. And we do this for about 3 or 4 minutes, and everyone had to go and take a turn. And it really, it just kind of helped me understand the difference of hearing our own voice stating what's happening in our inner world and in our heart. So that was like super fascinating.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that being because it's obviously you have, I guess, your own little breakthroughs by doing things like that and these exercises that take you out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Well, speaking about that again, because you mentioned your, again to your communications and your background, but what can you share a bit about your role at Kissing Lions?
Absolutely. So, Kissing Lions is an independent consultancy. I love it so much. I love it because I get to be autonomous. I get to do what I love. I make my own hours. So, our areas of focus are branding, things like scratch building, logos and contributing to that conversation, websites, marketing communications. So that has to do with strategy, planning launches, understanding things like executive positioning. When you see people, there's a spotlight feature of them sort of written up on their own materials or drafting up things like newsletters, and the public relations piece. Now, this is the piece that I think your audience would really benefit from just doing a little searching on what public relations is. So essentially, I pitch my clients to the media. I invite the media to different launches and activations, and I support just being a bit of a think tank, if you will, with how to introduce brands that are launching or how to reintroduce them or introduce initiatives to secure media coverage from top tier media and also other unique strategies.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. Do you is this something I mean, do you have a team or is this primarily you doing all this work? Or,
Great question. So I am an indie consultant. Kissing Lions is my baby. 14 years old. I launched it during 2011. And what I love about being an indie consultant is I will bring teams on or I will bring partners on as needed depending on the initiative. And I especially feel like this will really resonate for those that are now, those who are listening, who are now on that journey of being a nomad. We don't take the whole brick and mortar with us. We don't have to do that anymore. And public relations was actually one of the industries that was remote. We've been remote. I mean, I was remote for years and years before the pandemic. So I think this is super exciting for emerging entrepreneurs who are ready to invest in their brand because oftentimes I will hear things like, oh, that brand over there is like mine. I don't know how they got that article, but my stuff is so much better. So let me interpret what this is sounding like. This is sounding like someone who sees their potential and they're not sort of yet immersed in outsourcing or even hiring your marketing communication strategist who can really help uplift what your story is to the media, right? And how is that different from, for example, B2B, that's business to business, B2C, which is business to consumer. I consider media, and this is just my own jargon, so you might Google this and get who knows what, but business to media. What is it that we're telling about the scarf? For example, this is who makes the scarf? Bien Habillé. So this scarf is made by, I don't represent Bien Habillé, but I know the designer. She's lovely. This scarf proceeds go to Haiti. And the designer, the design Bien Habillé is now in like spaces like Nordstrom. So if I were representing them, would I be talking about the founder? Would I be just talking about the scarf? Would I be talking about other initiatives? They support women and survivors in Haiti to have an income as Haiti, tries to rebuild based on ways it has been just attacked through colonization. So sky's the limit, and that's every one brand's secret. So get your secret.
wow, okay, yeah, that's very fascinating. I mean, it's a lot to think about.
Mhm.
Um, obviously I don't do what you do, so it's interesting to view it in a different way, a different perspective. Um, what can you? What does your typical day look like?
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to do some confessing, it sounds like. Um, so uh, a typical day could look like I wake up at any bizarre hour of the morning before the sun is up. I'm in New York City. I'm in a space where the avenue is not too far from me. So although I live several floors up, once the day gets going, there's sirens and everything. So I love getting up super early. I'll get up early, maybe have some caffeine if I make it there, and I'll just start my creative work. And it's really powerful and it's exciting. Some of that can entail putting strategic documents together, building splash pages, um, you know, planning media outreach for special initiatives. Right now, that is working with an amazing perfume brand called Coco de Mer, which is just launched in the US from the Seychelles. And also working with a fashion designer. The name of the brand is Natty Bell. So they're having some fashion activations in like a couple of weeks from now. So I'm kind of around the clock, not looking as tidy as I might right now, but looking in the ugly PJs and the spaghetti stain on my t-shirt. And that's the magic of being a nomad. You can kind of get up and just really have you could really enjoy your creative process. So that's really what my universe is about. And then when it's time to Zoom, I got to freshen myself up. So get here in these digital Zoom streets, so to speak.
Right.
Um, and then sometimes going to the actual activations, traveling to events. I'll be sometime soon heading to the Silicon Valley African Film Festival.
Wow.
So just the itinerary constantly changes.
Right. Yes, it sounds like it. Well, that keeps it fun and adventurous.
I would say it does.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like there's a good amount of freedom in what you do, and I think that's really healthy. What so within your industry, what major shifts are you seeing right now?
That's a great question. So, what I've seen in the public relations industry, communications, public relations, has been evolving. So, wherein your typical public relations initiative really doesn't go for less than a year. There is an emergence of independent consultants. And in that emergence, people are maybe able, entrepreneurs, small businesses, or just businesses in general, organizations are able to access programs that maybe go for 6 months. That's one trend. Another trend is fractional public relations leadership is on the rise. So, marketing communications, public relations. Sometimes folks are taking maternity leave and they really are coming back to that secure job, once baby's a little bit older. So, some folks are looking to bring people on for 4 months, 6 months. And as there are different financial changes here in the United States, that is becoming more and more appealing to established organizations that want to keep their door open, but that are forced to kind of be lean and scrappy until we kind of understand what's happening to the different changes in the market.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So do you think or how do you think that has impacted your business at all?
Absolutely. In my case, for the better. Um, Wherein some folks, I would say, I saw a trend. So let me be specific, if that's helpful to the audience. So after 2020, um, learned that a lot of communications and public relations people with substantial accounts, well-established folks, they downsized from maybe 10 clients to 3 clients. Um, And some just kind of had to shut their doors, or unfortunately had clients that were unable to pay because everything was sort of shutting down. And I saw an increase. I ended up working with the Women in Cannabis study. I worked with a couple of other amazing projects, and I could not have anticipated that. So I do want to encourage the entrepreneurs, listening in. Trends don't always have to be negative. For those of you that are maybe 1 foot in, a sort of established business, that you're an employee, and 1 foot in being an entrepreneur, I think we have major strengths now, which is, sort of yet another trend, which is people who are able to navigate that sort of moving landscape. At this point, I'll give myself as an example. I worked at a nonprofit for about a year and 3 months. I worked at a tech place for about a year and 4 months. I worked at a startup for about the same, and I was able to navigate in between those opportunities because kissing lions is mine. And I was able to be transparent with those folks that I worked with. That's actually a part of the reason they hired me, is that that's what I was sort of doing, and it made me interesting and innovative.
Okay. Well, yeah, I love that. I'm glad that it's been a positive impact.
Well, that's the positive. I mean, there's always like a. Do you want me to list the downers? I know. I don't. Do you think that would be valuable to your audience? Some
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
challenges.
yeah.
Okay,
That was
great.
actually going to be my next question. So,
Ah. Okay, perfect. So I would say the challenges. Almost thoughtfully consider what I'm sharing to avoid the pitfalls of thinking all of this happens quickly. If we push too quickly, we could experience things like burnout, stress, exhaustion, sort of being overstimulated, which it's a down spiral when it comes to just showing up at our own full potential. Also, I would avoid the pitfalls of, or I feel like you would want to flag, just making quick decisions without thinking them through. If you're in, an employee right now, or if you are, in corporate, take your time, plan it out. Almost, there's an exercise that I would recommend. So you'd almost want to, at least once or twice, do an exercise in your mind. If I finish strong, and did what I set out to do in corporate, as I kind of do what I need to do on the weekends to kind of learn about being an independent consultant, what are the steps I would take if the same company I'm working for would later come back and hire me as a fractional executive? That's a prompt I came up with to kind of help. I was having a discussion with other amazing folks in the wellness world. And that prompt was really juicy because we don't want to dart and leave and, I got something more and forget about you. We want to take care of ourselves in these career streets.
right.
It's no matter if you're an employee, multi hyphenate, or just an indie consultant. Our reputation is one of the biggest things we have, so we have to nurture it.
It's very true. Yeah, yeah, I love that. What is, as far as your business goes, which metrics are you most focused on improving?
I like that. Speaking of metrics, um, really fascinated about people's curiosity that what is the who is determining KPIs when it comes to the multi hyphenates you hire, right? Because you're doing one thing over here. Then if we place, a client in Forbes, that has like a specific measure based on, what we are, sort of collaborating on and what we agree to. Um, I'm looking at performance in terms of what's the feedback I'm getting? Is it consistently good? If there's pushback at something that maybe wasn't a good fit, or a client didn't like it, was the turnaround on that swift, professional, and effective? looking at things like that, and looking at the original agreement. Did someone say, hey, I just want you for 2 months, and we ended up working for 3 years? That happened to me. That's definitely a metric. So um, I think also, okay, you're totally welcome to tease me on this. I call myself a nerd, but that doesn't mean I want you to label yourselves if you do this, you know. Um, but I really am obsessed with dashboard spreadsheets. What I like about dashboard spreadsheets is that you can have all of your KPIs from any of the different ways you care to measure yourself, and you can watch them and you can kind of see them all in one place. So I've been playing with those, and I'm really excited about it. It really gives us a snapshot as to what's working, what's not, what's technically specific, and what's more about those nuanced things that may just make sense between me and one client, but not to everyone else.
Right. Yeah, no, we share the same love for information and dashboards and spreadsheets. So,
Yes, TikTok is like teeming. Okay, I have to say to the entrepreneurs listening in and the wellness folks, TikTok and other social platforms have a host of information, and YouTube as well, have a host of information about just building out dashboards that really help us to think through our business metrics. So, and
wow.
Jared, your company as well.
Wow, I didn't know that TikTok had things like that on it.
Oh my goodness. It is there's a joke going around, University of TikTok. And people
Oh,
say, what do you mean? TikTok has a university? No, but the humorous phrase comes from you can learn so much based on these sort of, anywhere between 1 and 10 minute sound bites. There's also something called, now this is just, the bonus round of interesting info out there. There's something called a talkumentary. You can go to TikTok and you can put in the hashtag talkumentary. And certain folks who had their, I don't know, they engaged in the right ways, they can literally put up like an hour-long TikTok.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. This is all new information to me.
All right. Those are my KPIs for today.
I had no idea. I just thought it was some younger generation toy, but I've messed around on there a little bit, but not a lot. So, yeah, I wasn't aware.
Well, I would say the trick is it's going to be gone. I think there's murmuring, so please check your latest headline. I don't know. It continues to change if it's going to stay
Right.
accessible. However, with things like YouTube, TikTok, I do know for sure with TikTok, you want to go in for your search terms. If you like authors, if you like books, if you like recipes, if you like fixing auto parts, there's so many you know conversations on AI, and there's actually like a STEM channel where if you click, there's a little header at the top, and there's all this information about STEM. I just watch that sometimes just for fun, just to
Huh.
massage my mind and get it off of cat videos, and vice versa.
Wow. Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to take a deeper dive into TikTok.
All right, well, don't thank me. Someone who loves you in your life is going to say, "Well, who got you on that TikTok?"
Yeah.
Don't tell on me.
Okay, we'll keep it secret. What where here's another good one. Where do you want to be in the next 6 or 12 months from now?
Oh boy. Um, I want to be with more trees, whatever that looks like in my life. I've been in New York City for more years than I can count on my hands, and my stress level reduces automatically when I'm around tall, established, old, historic trees. So, being in nature would be wonderful. With access, I didn't say I wanted to like camp with ticks. Okay, let's not get carried away, but somewhere beautiful that I can, sort of stroll and let my guard down. Maybe a little more travel. Um, and I'm would like to be, rolling out educational modules on trauma informed awareness and ways that we can just kind of lean into that. I am actually Tending the Roots certified. Tending the Roots is training through the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center. And the Tending the Roots training carries it's the New York State Trauma Informed curriculum. And so I would love to travel a little bit more and provide those trainings if that timing and if the finances are aligned.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds great. I I feel the same. Obviously, nature is it's it's very grounding to be in nature.
Yes, it is.
From a business aspect, if you could solve one major challenge today, what would it be within your business?
My personal business within Kissing Lions,
Mm-hmm.
I would quantum leap with more of the spreadsheeting. It's really one of those things that I have so much data from, maybe not data, but these case studies, what I've done, people I've worked with, media I've secured, and I'm ready to up level by doing just kind of a deeper dive into getting that all into one business story. And I think that would be really fun, but that would require me to quantum leap
Right.
or higher, higher out.
Right. Or clone.
Right.
Clone. Well, no, that was great. I really appreciate all of your insight and appreciate you coming on and sharing everything today.
It's been amazing, and I am looking forward to hearing the feedback that the audience might have on any of these topics we've touched on. And it's always an honor and a pleasure to talk about destigmatization, like talk about feeling muscular. I just feel like every time I do it, I'm like making a muscle for those of you who can't see my arms.
What's the best way for people to learn more about what you're doing and connect with you?
Absolutely. You can visit kissinglions.com. That's KISSINGLIONS.com. Or you can go to LinkedIn and follow Kahshanna Evans. I'm also on Instagram at Kissing Lions, all one word.
Perfect. Thank you. No, thanks again. I do really appreciate it. And um, yeah, I loved the conversation.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks,
Thank you.
audience.